Welcome back to Middle of the Road, a podcast for runners and would-be runners with busy schedules and big appetites. My name is Christy Luke Jones, your first host. Sitting next to me, he's the chicken to my McNugget. It's Wan.
Thank you very much for that lovely intro.
Yeah, you're looking confused, and yeah, I'm not sure where that came from. Anyway, this is episode 5, otherwise known as week 4 of our 10-week training program. What have we got planned for this episode?
I think just following on from last week, I think we both came back from holiday.
Yep.
So we'll probably go through almost like the post-holiday or break coming back and how it just... You try and slot it back into your training regime.
Getting back on the horse, as it were. The horse being running in this metaphor.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Horsepower. I think the other thing to talk about is, as we're getting to week 4 out of 10 weeks, you kind of get to the point where, because week 5, 6, and 7 is probably where you're like at your peak in terms of your training, in terms of how heavy it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like to discuss about how do you find the time. Like, imagine if you're already so busy and packed, and then they're asking, "Oh yeah, you got to slot your 3 runs a week of half an hour to 1 hour worth," and you're like, "Well, it's just like how do you fit that in?"
Upping your game to like your max training, and fitting that around your already crammed schedule.
Yes,
which is not an easy thing to do. And it probably still won't be an easy thing to do after this episode, but hopefully you'll have some tips and ideas to try out.
Exactly.
Without underselling ourselves. Anyway,
what did you do?
What did I do
Should
this
we
week?
start out?
We
always start off.
Okay, what have I've actually been... For me, I've been pretty good. Considering it's post-holiday, I've really got back on the horse. For me, it's more of I get... Now and again, I'll get a panic where I'll be like, okay, I've got an event coming up. I really need to step this up. I came back from the holiday. I felt good. As I said in the last episode, I've been walking, I've been running, but at the same time, I've been eating a lot. So I came back feeling maybe a bit heavy, feeling a bit slow, and that kind of spurred me on to get onto bigger, longer runs. I've been doing post-work runs, which, as I've said before, are easier for me. This week I've probably done about 25 miles actually, across 3 runs, which for me is pretty good. And I must say that after each one of those, I felt awesome. Like, the endorphins were flowing. I'm sleeping better. Even after a week of 3 good runs, I'm sleeping better. I'm going to bed earlier, just naturally. I'm craving good foods rather than just, like, 4 Magnums in a row. I'm craving real food. Phone's going off. Apologies.
So what have you been eating this time?
Mate, I've been eating veggies. I've been eating fruit in the morning. My snacks have been like satsumas and things like that. It's been shocking to say the least. It's a real kind of left turn for me.
Right.
And you're normally on it, dude. So I'm hoping you can match me. What have you been up to?
Yeah, so I definitely can match it in the other direction.
Nice.
So
You've done a Christie.
Exactly. I followed in your suit. Those 4 Magnums, they're just too delicious. Actually, I bought 4 slices of cake though. Not for myself, but
okay.
I had 2 of them.
So you haven't gone full Christie, but you.
No.
What about running? Did you get any running in at all?
So basically, this week, the week that's just went, it was full on in terms of coming back from getting back to work. So I had 2. So I don't work in London, but I had 2 sort of event days in London for my work. So that kind of basically took up my days.
So big, like, long days, essentially.
Yeah, so I think the first one, I came back at, like, midnight. The other one, I came back about, like, 8 p.m. So
you didn't go running at midnight? You lazy shit.
No.
No,
no midnight runs.
I mean, this completely echoes what we said in the last episode about interruptions and not feeling too guilty if you have got a busy schedule on.
Yeah, I did not feel guilty at all. In fact, I ate extra as well.
Yeah, but you got to do it because you can't.
Yeah, you got to eat extra. Yeah, you got to do it.
But yeah, you can't let your work slip, can you? So it's a case of just you recognise that and you didn't, and you just kind of you were like, okay, I'm going to let the running go this week.
Yeah.
Did you do park run on the Saturday?
No, I did do park run. No,
Okay.
it's just I was more remembering because at work I got to expense my lunch, so I had like a pad thai.
Nice. Always expense your lunch if you can.
But in terms of park run, yes, that's the first time I've done sort of any form of exercise and running.
Nice. How did you do? 5K, what was your time?
It was 22.5.
Is that close to your PB for the
It's
year?
a minute off.
Minute off what? For the year?
Oh,
Or
for the
overall?
year. Actually, for the year, so, but for my park run, it's actually my fastest this year.
Nice.
So I should take more holidays.
Yeah.
In that
obviously,
theory,
but
yeah.
there's an argument, isn't there? You're more refreshed and...
Every week I shave off a minute. If only that was the case.
Oh, hell yeah. But the thing is, like, I sometimes find that if you run after not running for a while, or you run in a new location, I find I'm quicker. Because if I don't run for a week, I find all my kind of tensions and things building up, and then I run angry, and I run quicker. So again, it's the stress release thing, but I think it can help you in terms of your actual running.
Do you run angry, or I've seen some people post like they run hangry. Have you ever seen that?
Running hangry, I think I'd struggle. Because I'd just eat. I would anger eat.
But wouldn't you just like get home faster just to eat?
Possibly, yeah. No, that's a good point. But I think it would be the getting out the door when I was hungry would be a struggle. But okay. For me, I mean, just on a side point, running angry is great for me. Because I come back, the anger's gone.
Yeah.
But I've really hammered the run because I've got that almost like
frustration, that like tension. And
yeah. The tension kind of spurs you on, I think. I don't know about you. I mean, you're quite a calm person comparatively.
I just find it. I find it more like a nice stress relief. You know how sometimes, I always find it when I've seen it on mobile phones when like an advert comes. Oh, this is a 30-second of just calm. Mm-hmm. So I think it was like an advert for calm,
like a mindfulness thing.
Yeah, so you literally do nothing for 30 seconds. I sometimes find running is like that. You know, you run for 5K and it's just you just let yourself to absorb the environment in.
Yeah. It is a really mindful activity, and that's why a lot of if you suffer from anxiety and stress, it's sometimes something that even kind of doctors will prescribe if you're able to do it, to run and do exercise because of the endorphins, because of the stress release. It's something people prescribe now as part of a kind of holistic approach to reducing stress and anxiety. But that kind of fits in with the theme of this episode, which is getting back on the horse after a particularly busy week at work when you've not run, or a holiday. I mean, do you find our post-holiday you've got the blues that you struggle to get back into running, or?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of things. So I think firstly it's just you kind of put yourself out of sync. So now you actually say, like, if you've done nothing on your holiday, you almost like got one week less. So where when you look at your 10-week training plan, do you cut a week short and just jump to the next week, or do you shift everything, sort of bring everything across by 1 week?
Okay.
So
what's your approach to that? I mean, I know what mine would be. How would you do that? You would...
For me, I'll probably most likely I'll shift everything. I wouldn't like jump up the intensity.
No, I think it would be a bit is risky to if you were just to kind of act as if you'd skipped a week, because you're gonna want to, particularly if it's your first ever kind of running schedule, your first like foray into running. You don't want to burn yourself out, do you?
I think just try and find yourself to go back in the groove. I sometimes find that when coming back, even the first week can be quite tough, and just generally just doing a couple of runs and not necessarily thinking about what training plan you're in.
Yeah,
is the best way, because like there are other really simple things that just get in your way. Like for me, when coming back from holiday, is actually realizing that I had to do the laundry.
Yeah.
Like all my kit was just in the laundry basket, not even washed. So I couldn't even go for a run.
Yeah.
Even if I wanted to. So it's just like some simple things like that, and then you realize, you go for a run, and then you normally have like a decent post-workout meal, but your fridge is empty.
Yeah.
So you don't even have that. So then you got to do the shopping for that, and it's just those little bits that you don't really.
I think it's
see. So you just go on Deliveroo more.
Yeah. I think again, overall, it's like we always say about with this program, you've got to be flexible. You can't kind of beat yourself up if you don't follow something to the letter. And I think particularly when you've come back from holiday or a tough week at work, just to get a few runs in, doesn't matter the distance really, as long as you get something in and you start getting, like you are said, back into the groove, things are going to be a bit disrupted, particularly post-holiday. And you can't feel bad for not following your routine to the letter.
Yeah.
But it's better than not doing anything.
Yeah.
And falling another week kind of out of the groove.
I always find the other thing that when coming back from holiday, it does sometimes feel like the first week when you're trying to get started, but when you do start, it's a lot quicker to get back into the groove. I think that's the only thing you got to try and make sure not to get in the habit of, I got to do laundry, I got to do, buy the food to make sure I'm well balanced for these runs. But if you're just like prolonging it every single day, then it does get a bit worse. But if you're able to knock it off all in one day, just get 1 or 2 days just to clear it all off, trying to catch up, and then you should be good. Yeah,
I think for me, like the first day back to work after a holiday, you're gonna have those blues. You're gonna be a bit like, oh, I wish I was still on holiday. So if anything, a run is great because a run's gonna up your mood in the evening anyway. If you do it straight after work, get the stresses of that first work week done, get home and just chill. And you're going to be buzzing on endorphins again, and it's going to kind of ease you back into that daily schedule, I think.
Yeah.
So for me, again, if you can get it in, as we're saying, like week on week, if you see running as this positive outlet, then I think you're way more likely to use it in that way and to see it as an advantage.
Yeah. I think if you're a bit more stricter and you're pretty good at these plans and regimes, I think a kind of different angle of approaching it is that you look at your training plan and actually redo it from that week to the event.
Oh, what so?
So if say like you're someone who's quite good at these things, good in terms of planning, and you actually go, okay, I'm in the mood to go back into running again.
Yeah.
So rather than using your existing training plan and jumping in, it might be a bit too intense, or you might put it too easy. You actually like almost scrap it and say, okay, imagine if I had now till the event that you got, and just plan like that.
Okay, so what you would say, repeat the week that you did before, or
not necessarily. So say like imagine if you were doing say 30-minute runs 3 times a week, and say the week you were on holiday you were meant to do say 45 minutes of 3 runs, sort of upping it.
Yep.
Maybe instead you're like, okay, I'm pretty dedicated, I'm going to do those 3-week runs. Maybe you do 2 45-minute and 1 30-minute, so you re-tailor it. So it's almost like it's just constantly evolving.
Yeah, so giving yourself a little break. Maybe the first one of that week you do 30 minutes to get yourself back in the groove, and then you test yourself by going up to that 45. So I guess it's balancing, not falling too far off where you want to be.
Yeah,
but also giving yourself some leeway.
Yeah. I think you're almost like snipping the week before with the week that you're gonna do, and almost like putting them together, like overlapping, and just take the best of both.
Yeah, but again, it's adjusting, isn't it? If you do that first run post holiday and you really struggle, then maybe do another 30-minute one until you're feeling back on it, and then do a 45. It's tweaking it, isn't it? You're not going to know until you go on that first run.
Yeah.
And again, it's not being hard on yourself and just enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing. Throughout this whole thing is just to keep on enjoying yourself.
100%.
Actually, one question I want to... When you come back from a break and you go on your first run, in general, how do you feel like when you're actually running itself? Like, do you mentally feel stiff? Do you mentally, or like physically or mentally, how do you feel?
I think the first day of work back from holiday tends to be a little harder, doesn't it? Because you're normally catching up on things. There's normally stuff that has built up that you have to crack through. So you're going to have work is going to feel longer. So I think when you first go on that run, I think the first mile or two, depending on what distance you're doing, physically you can feel a little stiff. I think you're probably going to be a bit more tired. You've recently travelled and you've had your first day back at work. But I think for me, mentally, I'm in a good position because I want that boost. I want that boost after a hard first day back at work. So physically, you know, it might take you a mile or two. Particularly for me, it would take me a mile or two to get my pacing right, to get my breathing right. But I think I would feel the motivation is probably really high for me at that point.
Yeah.
Because I want to get back on it. I'm like, okay, I've had a good week away, 2 weeks away, but I've got this goal that I want to crack on with.
Yeah.
But definitely first 2 miles physically, you're going to feel a bit off the pace. And you've got to just accept that.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know about you. I mean, any run, I think the first couple of miles or first mile is always tricky.
Yeah, I completely agree in terms of physical.
Yeah.
I think the first few miles, all. I mean, if there are people who won't be doing like endless miles, I would say, you know, the first 10-15 minutes probably of a run. You probably feel a bit stiff, even if you stretch and warm up and everything. I mean, we're not really the best examples for that, but I can't see how stretching, you know, you feel a little bit stiff. I think
it's more like the pacing, isn't it? Because even now, if I was to do a half marathon now, I always say, I think we both always say afterwards, like the first 2 miles or the first few miles are horrible because it's tough to get that pace, and it's tough to go from not running to running.
I think it's getting your body to wake up that you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you've got to expect that. You can't be shocked by that. You've got to be like, okay, once my breathing's sorted after 2 miles, I'll calm down and I'll get a nice rhythm. And it will happen. But it's just, again, it's what comes with experience. You can make up for not being as strict as some people by listening to how your body feels and putting it in tune with how you're thinking and kind of get yourself through it psychologically, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess from my point of view, from mentally, I guess for me, I'll feel a bit different. I'll feel refreshed because I've taken a break, but not necessarily because you were saying that you're looking for that endorphins. But for me, it's just like you just mentally feel a little bit better, refreshed, that you want to tackle the running.
Yeah.
So that's how I would feel.
I
wouldn't necessarily feel like too much like, oh yeah, let's go for a run.
Yeah.
It would just be like, go for a run. I feel good, feel clear.
Again, it's when you get that first step out the door. That's when you can really judge how you're feeling. I mean, you're naturally gonna, like we said before, if you get in from work, you're naturally gonna be like, nah. Just get your running kit on and take a step out the door and see how you feel.
Yeah,
that's the key thing. I reckon 99% is very rare that you will step out in your running gear and step straight back in. Yeah, that's the thing. First step's the big one. Go for it. I mean, both of us have said now. I think the consensus is that the post holiday run can be a positive thing. Can get you back on the horse. Yep, definitely. Cool. So you're back on the horse. You're in week 4. What's the kind of, what are you looking at doing at that point? So it's almost like you're now. So this week and then next week, you're kind of making that transition towards this. So this will be your heaviest workload in terms of training. So you're looking at week 4 and week 5 out of 10. So you're pushing to the halfway point. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're almost pushing to the halfway point and pushing to a point where, it'll be where your workload will be most heaviest in terms of training for, week 5 and 6. And it'll be kind of where it's the most intense. You start, if you look at past training plans, you could start looking at running some distances at race pace. You start seeing, those kind of words being flung around as well. And yeah, so I guess at a very basic level, you think of the 10-week training program. If you look at it as a graph, it would be like a bell curve, wouldn't it? So you build up to week 5, which is halfway, which would be, you'd be hitting your peak. You'd go along at your peak for a couple of weeks. Yeah. And then towards the end, I guess you would taper off a bit. Yeah. As you go to the event so that you don't burn out. Yeah, so probably week 4 in terms of 10 weeks, if you're looking at the bell curve, you're probably at the steepest part. In terms of, so these are fairly big jumps in a way. And then you would have a bit of a plateau at your peak, wouldn't you? And then you'd taper off. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So you'll hear the word tapering quite a bit is when you're... How would you describe tapering? Easing off your training regime. So imagine if you're training at 100% effort. So tapering is almost like
it's like a sliding scale. You're going from 100 to 50%.
Yeah. But we'll cover that in more detail, like in the later weeks when you're getting towards your event. But at this point, like UR says, you're pushing up to your peak at this point.
Yes.
But the big question is, we've said before, we're talking about runners who have busy schedules and lots of things possibly getting in the way. How do you go from already battling to get running into your everyday routine to making it more, getting up to your peak training? So longer runs, more runs. So what do you think? What's your take on that?
I mean, for me personally, for my lifestyle, I always find that during the week I can do up to 5, 1 per day. So 5.
What, Monday to Friday?
Yeah, I think that's doable. I think the weekend, for me, I always find the weekends the more challenging one, because in training plans, they always slot the long one on the weekend.
Yeah.
So what I mean by the long one, for like half marathon programs, sometimes you see they slot in an hour and a half.
Okay.
As a, they'll say gentle jog for an hour and a half, but I'm just like, I don't have an hour.
Or I don't want to spend an hour and a half. I want to do other stuff.
Or I mean, that might show where our minds are at. But you kind of sometimes you feel, do I really want to do an hour and a half of that?
Yeah, I think again it's assessing your habits. So, for example, for me, I'd like to have one day at the weekend where I have a lie-in. So Sunday, I'm very unlikely to slot in an hour and a half of running. Whereas a Saturday morning, if I've got something planned like a park run, or if I want to go, I'm more likely to slot in a long run on a Saturday morning to kickstart my weekend.
Yeah.
Unless obviously I've been out the night before. But my general habit would be to have a chilled run on a Friday, wake up and do an awesome run, feel buzzed, and then go out on a Saturday night. But that's fitting it to my schedule.
So would you ever do a run longer than an hour then?
At the weekend?
Historically, like talking from your experience, like in the past, have you ever on a weekend?
Yeah, I would. I think again, I wouldn't do it probably on a Sunday. It would be a Saturday thing.
Yeah.
It would be if I felt like, if I woke up on a Saturday morning feeling fresh, week's done, got a whole weekend ahead of me. I have in the past been tempted to do an hour and a half run.
Yeah.
I normally think of it now in terms of miles, but if you're looking at time, I could do an hour and a half run. But I'd want to, it'd be getting up at a decent time, 8 or 9, doing that run, and then meeting up with friends for like a brunch or a lunch or something.
Yeah.
That's good, because it's kind of a build up to a fun activity. Whereas on a Sunday, I'd want to have a bit of a lie-in.
Yeah.
Say you got up at 11 or 12, you want to make the most of your day. I think you've got to, for me, it's got to be, again, fit around how I like to do things.
Yeah.
Which is probably different to you. I mean, would you get an hour and a half run in at the weekend?
No.
No, exactly.
Weekends normally I got the park run on Saturday, which I normally do, and then it's just generally it'll be my day's rest. From training in general. That's the only times I have my days of rest.
But I mean, if you're saying that you can do 5 days every day, Monday to Friday,
I could.
Yeah. But but you could. So that's potentially how you would fit in peak training. Whereas I can't do that.
Yeah.
I would find if I did 5 days in a row, that a couple of those days I would be way off the pace. I would be shit. I'd probably feeling a bit run down.
Yeah.
So for me, it's good to do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
I'd have to have those breaks, because in the end my training runs would be substandard. I wouldn't feel good. I'd probably be like, wow, this is becoming a bit of a drag. So I guess it depends with your peak training how you're going to fit those days in.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'll find the hardest, although I said that I could probably do 5 days a week, the only issue is that they're at limited amount of time, so I can't like increase those from half an hour to an hour and do 5 of them a week.
Yeah,
it's just they're not necessarily not enough time, but it's just I just don't want to do that much.
Yeah, and I think as well, like from being responsible as well. You should most kind of theories around running is that you should have a rest day, or any exercise. You should probably have a rest day.
Yeah, at least once I think at least once a week.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's better to have more, but I think if you're really if you're really at that level, then once a week is good. Is a good amount.
But again, you need to know your body. So if you're running, if this is literally week 4 of your whole running journey, you've never done running before, then you are probably going to need rest days.
Yeah.
And it's better, like I was saying just now, alluding to just now, it's better to run and feel good than be burnt out and run anyway, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you're off your pace, you feel crap during the run, you're not going to want to do another one. You're going to be like, wow, that was awful. But if you have that break in between, you get hungry again for the next run.
Yeah.
Your muscles are relaxed and you just go for it. So I think it is, again, just listening to what your body's telling you.
Yeah, definitely. It does take a while. I think that's the biggest part of this whole journey for people doing any journey, even experienced people, is that whole listen to your body and what does your body tell you. But also sometimes, when your body gets a bit tired, but you yourself know that it shouldn't be tired, then you kind of just you almost give itself a little kick, just to say, I know you're not tired. Yeah. Come on.
It can be, yeah. Sometimes the thing is, it might sound like we're rambling sometimes and not being very concise. Well, me. But it's tricky because, like you says, you might be feeling tired, but then you really have to look at it and be like, is that my motivation that's telling me that I'm tired? Mm-hmm. Or am I actually physically tired? Yeah. And sometimes it might just be that mentally you're tired and you're a bit demotivated, but then, like you say, you step outside and boom, you're on it. Yeah. But you might then, on the other side of the coin, you might be physically exhausted, and running's probably the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, definitely.
It's knowing yourself physically, but also knowing yourself mentally, and what are your motivators, what are your demotivators, what your almost like your poker tells when you're feeling like you don't want to run. Yeah. Is it a bluff? Is it your brain bluffing you, or are you actually knackered? It's a tricky one though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a tricky one. I think the other thing that I find is quite tricky, I know that from my point of view, I don't do it at all. In terms of when you're increasing the training, is increasing the intensity of the training. Okay. And for me, I don't know. I know I don't do that. Okay. So say sometimes people goes, okay, you done sort of a medium 60-70% effort run, and I go, okay, now you got to try and fit in one at 80% effort. Right. But I know myself, I don't really do those. Yeah. I don't really go, okay, today I am going to go flat out. Yep. And run flat out for those things. I'm just like, no, I don't really do it. I know I don't.
I think I'm the same, really. I think if my training schedule was to say okay, your run on Wednesday has got to be flat out or 80% or some high percentage, I think that would demotivate me. But if I went out and in the first mile I felt good and I felt like I could up it to 80%, then that's fine.
Do you think it's weird that the fact that if you've been told to do something in a training plan, you tend to not gonna do it, but if you yourself feel good on that day, you go out and do it.
Yeah, and I think that's the essence of this podcast, isn't it? It's not feeling trapped by a strict regime and not feeling like you have to do something. It's making you feel like you want to do something. Yeah. And stepping up to the plate and upping your game, sometimes just doing it when you feel like it. If you get out on the run and you feel super good, up the pace a little bit. Do a big sprint at the end. Like when I run with people sometimes that haven't run very much, and I'm like, why don't you sprint the end? And they're like, no way, I'm dying, I can't do it. Yeah. But then even if they sprint just 10 meters at the end, they feel so good. Yeah. It's that can I test myself in the moment?
Yeah, I think everyone is different because for me, I know one person that
Is it me?
No.
Okay, good. Go on.
To be honest, for you just run the first half really fast and then realise, actually, that was pretty quick first half.
Yeah, I tend to burn out, particularly half marathons. I tend to burn out after about 8 miles.
So this person, when they run, they're throughout the whole thing, they're just I can't do it anymore, and they're still running, and then suddenly they start running quicker. And it's just why are you running quicker? You feel like you're dying. It's just you know what? I just want to get this over and done with. So they're actually motivated they're motivated to get this over and done with as quick as possible. Yeah. So they're at the end, they'll come and they'll say the exact same thing. Oh, I can't do a sprint finish, and
Yeah.
then suddenly they'll do a sprint finish, and they'll say, I just want to get over and done
Yeah.
with and not do this anymore.
Yeah. I
And
guess
then they'll come back again next week.
Yeah, I guess it's like you can be demotivated, but then you can really grit your teeth and push through. Or
It's almost like they flip that motivation to just finish it
yeah,
as quick as possible.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think personally I could cope with every single run that I do being a real struggle and having to do that and be like, I want to get it over with.
I don't know whether it's just, I don't know about you, but my mindset's not quite like that.
I've had times when it's been like that, but I think generally because as I've said before, because I see a concrete benefit from running, which is stress release and a feel-good factor.
Yeah.
That is the overriding motivator for me to get into a routine of running, is that I know that it will positively affect how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. What is it for you?
For me, I don't. I guess the endorphins and those are kind of like bonus
Yeah.
kind of things. So it's sort of like I don't go out there just to get that. For me, I just go out there. I actually do enjoy it.
Yeah.
When I'm actually out there running.
Yeah.
I enjoy the sceneries and everything, and just to get fitter and to run faster.
Yeah, I think it's
the perception of running faster.
yeah, exactly. And I think the scenery, like you say, is a big thing as well, because that again is mindfulness and being out in the open and having that break from being in an office if that's what you do. No,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the. I mean, we in a roundabout way. How would we kind of concisely summarize our approach to getting up to your peak training? If I was asking what's your summary for how you would get up to peak training? What would be your tip or your approach?
For me, the main thing is just to ensure you keep it consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no point. You got to keep it consistent and balanced throughout the whole week during that, trying to build up to that peak week.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no point like going, okay, I can do an extra hour today, but I can't do it. I can only do half an hour. So you kind of like almost increase one run to beyond being realistic.
Yeah.
So it's just keeping it consistent. If you can only do 30 minutes for each one, then do 30 minutes for each one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just getting a good, decent set of miles and just constantly doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Is a lot better than up and down throughout the whole week.
Yeah, the same. I think that kind of feeds into my one, which would be I quite like to have a mile target rather than a time target.
Mm.
So I if I can't fit it time wise into my schedule, then I want to try and get the miles in. So whether I get those miles done in little chunks or a couple of big chunks, like you say, I try and keep them consistent, but I go for a mile target rather than a time target.
Yeah, I think the only other thing, in terms of fitting that long run in the weekend,
mm-hmm.
for me it's quite hard because I find it quite difficult to motivate myself to do anything longer than an hour
mm-hmm.
in terms of running. The only time I actually done it was, I think me and my partner, we took a train out to nearby field, and
mm-hmm.
we ran back. Well, I ran back and she took the bike.
Right.
So she cycled alongside on there's a nice cycle path.
Yeah.
So, I think maybe if I think of more of those kind of things to plan, almost make a day of it.
That's a good point. Be creative. Do something where there's another motivator aside from just
because
running.
we stopped by the pub on the way back as well. So that's
why not? And also, like, even if it was just you running and your partner cycling, like you said, it's a day of it, isn't it? It's more of a social activity than just exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, good point. So yeah, what have we got for next week? Which is going to be the halfway point. 5th week out of 10.
Yeah, I think Joe, I think we're going to talk about our experiences of what our sort of intense training is like. I know. And then I think that's pretty much it. I think that's the main core bit. It's just like getting to that peak, and how to judge it for the next few weeks. And how you feel from there.
Yeah, because you're going into the second half of your training program, and you've got to realise that you're already hitting your peak after 5 weeks, and you got to go a bit easier on yourself, not to burn out.
Yeah.
And think about how you're then going to taper off, like we said.
Yeah.
To your event.
And although you say peak, just to elaborate, it's more peak in terms of your training, not necessarily that, oh my god, this is as fast as I'm going to be.
Exactly.
So it's just more of anything you do after this that's more intense, it most likely will have less effect on the actual race day or the event day that you'll be, because when you do any cardio, it takes a couple of weeks for that week of cardio to kick in.
Yeah.
So that's why you normally week 5 and 6 is normally where your peak is, and then by the time it comes to race day, that full effect has been built in.
Yeah. So this is the sweet spot that will serve you well when you get to your race. No, good shout. So just a few things. You can listen to this podcast on Podbean, iTunes, and TuneIn. We also have a Twitter account now, which is MOTR_pod. So either leave your messages and comments on Podbean, iTunes, or TuneIn, or tweet us. We'd very much like to hear your experiences on kind of peak intensity running or upping intensity, post-holiday blues, all the stuff we've discussed this time around. But looking forward to having you back for week 5. Have you got a quote for us?
No, I don't have a quote.
No quote. Still in your holiday mode in that sense.
Exactly.
All right, but thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. See ya.